Good morning, all. Good morning. Good morning. My name is Barry Anthony Nugent.
Sorry. I thought you were saying good morning to me. You said good morning so many times. I thought one of them might be for me.
No, eventually I would have done. I'd literally just gotten to the I'm Barry Anthony Nugent. I was trying to take things seriously. I was then going to turn to you and go, and with me is my. I don't know what I was going to say, voluptuous. I don't know. I really wasn't going to say that. I actually wasn't going to.
I'm not going to take offence at that. That's a nice word that I enjoy, but I don't know if your wife and my husband will appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Well,
it's all gone right. Do you want to start again?
Right, I'll get it right this time. Good morning, fellow geek traveler. No, that hasn't worked. All right, everyone. No. All right? No. Well, go on. No. Good morning, all. Welcome to another rib-tickling, side-splitting, face-melting, hopefully not too face-melty, episode of Stace and Barry in the Morning. I am the voluptuous Barry Nugent. You see what I did there?
I do see what you did there.
And with me is the ever-present...
You just can't think of an adjective to describe me that's not voluptuous. It's fine. I'll accept it.
It's because it's in my head. It's because it's in my head now.
I think ever-present might be worse, though, because it seems like I'm, like, stalking you or something. Like, I'm like, you turn around and I'm there, like, hi.
And with me is my... See, I was going to say my lovely co-host, the effervescent...
That'll do. I like that.
Have that. The effervescent Stace Bob.
For a second there, I thought you'd forgotten my name.
No.
Hello, yes, I am the Stace. Here with the Barry.
Possibly the longest ever intro in the
podcast. Right, shall we round it up?
Yeah. No, because that will probably take another 20 minutes.
Yeah, just be like, fuck off and then leave.
Yeah. Latest. Yeah.
How you doing, B?
I'm doing very well. It's the reason I use the V word, which I won't say. It's because when I come up with a word, when I come up with the word, that makes it sound that I'm the person who invented the word, which isn't the case. But when I get like a fancy word in my head, I find it really difficult to like get out of my head because I feel really clever that I've come up with a fancy word. Which is what happened.
I see. To be fair, I do that a lot. Like there's a handful of words that I just really like using, so I use them all the time, and then eventually people are like, "Stop saying that, you weirdo." So I get it. It's fine. Like voluptuous is a nice thing to say, and I enjoy effervescent. Don't go with ever-present again, though. No. That does just make me sound like some sort of ominous being that just haunts people all the time. Oh, dearie me.
Like a sequel to The Woman in Black, which would be The Woman in the Back. Just in the back of every room.
I'm just in a corner eating popcorn, like, whatever.
Yeah. You know what? I've literally just turned around just to make sure you're not sitting on the couch behind me.
I'm definitely not in the tree in the back garden. What?
Yeah.
What? Like I could set myself up with a podcasting thing in a tree. Good Lord, it takes me long enough to set one up at an actual desk. I know what I'm doing, it's fine. Oh, dear me. That reminds me, just talking about podcasting, and like actually we will do some proper podcasting in a minute and, you know, do the show that we're here to do. But hasn't it like recently been a big podcast anniversary for you, B?
Yes.
Why were you so shocked by that?
Because I was trying to remember, like, podcast anniversary. What? Yes. Geek Syndicate turned 15.
Woo! That's the sound of an air horn.
That's the sound of the police. Wah, wah. Yes, we said, geez, this episode's going nowhere.
Should we just do a fucking segment?
Yeah, let's just do it. Yeah,
just do all this intro crap with shit at it today.
Yeah.
Let's do... Let's do a segment.
Just hit the trumpets, god damn it.
What's your pick of the fortnight, Barry?
My pick of the fortnight it's a TV show.
Ooh.
And I like to start off by saying, God damn you, BBC iPlayer, advertise your shows better. The reason I'm saying that is because the first season of this show I absolutely loved. Me and Sue blitzed it. And on paper, I actually thought it was going to be rubbish, but I loved it. And this is Fort Salem, Motherland. Have you heard of this?
Nope, never.
Okay. I'll give you a brief explanation in a minute. Anyway, like we've been waiting for ages for season 2, not knowing that they dropped the entire season 2 episodes on iPlayer in September.
Oh, amazing!
Just dropped them. Didn't feel like dropping me a line to let me know it was out. And I do find that with a lot of like BBC stuff outside of like your big heavy hitter shows, it just don't really get advertised that well online. I mean, it could be me, but I feel with a lot of the American shows over in the States, they kind of in some ways over advertised them.
Yeah.
You know? But anyway, so what Motherland is, I think it might just be, in my head it might just be called Fort Salem in the States. I don't know. But it follows Ray Collar, Abigail Bellwether, and Tally Craven, 3 witches who are conscripted into the US Army. They train in combat magic and use their vocal cords to enact seeds or seed sounds, layering vocal sounds to create powerful spells. The series takes place in a woman-dominated world in which the US ended persecution of witches 300 years ago during the Salem witch trials. After an agreement known as the Salem Accord, the world finds itself at odds with a terrorist organization known as the Spree, a witch-resistant group fighting against the conscription of witches.
Oh, okay.
And it is actually really, really good. The world building in it, I think, is brilliant, and it's done really well because it's centered around these 3 witches that have basically been drafted into the army. The world building comes via them obviously learning to be part of the army. So the world building is quite organic, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It sounds a bit silly, but if I had to sort of compare it, it's a little bit like Harry Potter meets Top Gun.
That makes no sense.
That's right, because that's how I roll. Because it's that whole kind of, Top Gun's the whole best of the best, and it's that small kind of, elite group of people, which is what's going on here. And then obviously the Harry Potter, because effectively it's like going to Hogwarts, except Hogwarts is the US Army of witches.
Right.
And it's great because all their sort of magic and stuff comes from sound. So it comes from their vocal cords, and the different sounds they make create different effects, different spells and stuff, and they can control the weather and all sorts. And first thing was great. We've got one more episode to watch of season 2. Season 2's been equally good as well. It's only got one more season. Apparently, it's been cancelled. Which, to be honest, if it's been marketed as poorly in the States as it has been over here, I can understand why.
Yeah.
Which is in one way it's a shame. In another way, I'm glad because they know it's been cancelled, so it is going to be rounded up with the 3rd season, which is good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've got someone with the name of Anna Costa Quartermain. I mean, come on.
That's a good name.
Yeah.
To be fair. Oh dear. No, that sounds really good. Like me and Rich have been having issues with TV shows lately because we keep meaning to start things and then they either get cancelled at a point where we don't want to start them anymore. Like Why the Last Man? Like we don't want to watch that now because we know that doesn't end in a good ending spot. Like we were saving it all up thinking, oh yeah, we're going to watch the whole series in one go. And then it was like, oh, it's been cancelled. Like if it gets picked up again by somebody else, then maybe we'll watch it. But now I'm just like, well, what is the point? Like I've got so much stuff to watch.
And I also think that's the downside because if this was like back in the 80s, most shows, well, 99% of shows were episodic.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't have, so it wouldn't have mattered if it got cancelled after like 6 episodes, because all those episodes would stand alone.
Yeah.
There was a problem with shows now and you're right, I did the same thing with Why the Last Man. I hadn't got around to watching it, and then suddenly someone told me it'd been cancelled. I was like, well, I literally just put a line through. What? I'm watching that then, because it's going to be serialized. It's going to be a story running through, and it's like some shows are pretty good at making it, even with that element, making it quite self-contained. But other shows, you just feel like it's like you were reading the book and someone's just come along and then torn half the book away. Well, you don't need that, and then tossed it onto a fire.
Yeah.
Extreme.
It's baffling. No, that would be pretty extreme, and I sincerely hope that never happens to any of my books, even the crap ones. I might give that a whirl though if it's looking like it's going to be a, sensible ending.
Yeah. Well, and as I said, it's I think each season is 10 episodes.
Oh, that's not too many.
Yeah. And it looks like obviously season 2 is, but I'm pretty sure season 1 is also an iPlayer. So it's not like you got to go hunting for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I might pitch that to Rich and see how he feels.
Yeah.
My pick of the fortnight, I want to give a little honorary mention to a TV show, and the reason that I didn't pick it is just because it's not really that geeky. But I feel like if you've not seen Stathlets Flats, now is the time to do that. Have you watched Stathlets Flats before?
I did. I think I watched about 4 or 5 episodes, and it wasn't that I didn't find it funny. I'm not quite sure why we stopped watching, but it fell into that category of what I'm gonna call cringe comedy.
Right.
And sometimes I can struggle with cringe comedy just because I hate seeing people embarrassed or make idiots themselves. So I find I have to. It's almost like watching an old school episode of Doctor Who with giant spiders where I've got to have a big pillow in front of me. That's how I feel when I watch shows like that. I feel like I can't watch it because it's just so cringing.
Yeah, I can see where that's coming from. But like for me, I mean, I've got no problem just laughing at people.
Good to
I'm
know.
such a lovely, empathetic lady. But they just dropped series 3, like the whole of series 3 on whatever Channel 4's streaming services. More 4OD. I don't know what it's called now. Yeah. But we watched the whole 6-episode series in an evening and laughed so hard my face hurt. But that's not actually my pick of the fortnight. That was just an honourable mention. My actual pick of the fortnight is Dune. Have you seen it yet, B? Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it yet. I've got a new book coming out. I don't know if I've mentioned it before. So
once or twice. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm slightly busy.
Well, what I will say is make time for this.
Okay.
I won't spoil anything, but to be honest, there's not an awful lot I could. Story. I was going to say there's not an awful lot I could spoil for anybody who has either read the book or seen the trailer. Most people will know that this is like the first sort of half of a 2-part story. So there's not necessarily an ending. I think it ends in a good enough place that it feels satisfactory, but also makes you want the rest of it.
Right.
But what sort of got me about it was I was a bit nervous about seeing this because I've not read the book and I've not seen the previous. There was a TV mini-series and David Lynch's film. I've not seen any of that.
Sting?
No, I haven't. Okay. I've not seen any of that, and I was worried because I know a lot of people are saying that it's impossible to adapt this book for the screen and that everybody who's tried it has failed miserably and it's been shit, and also that it's one of the best books ever written. So I was like, if I don't like this, people are going to murder me on the internet, aren't they? So I was like, I'm just going to watch it, and if I don't like it, I'm just going to fade into the background. No one will know I was ever here. But I think it's already in my top 5 movies for this year. It is as phenomenal as everybody's been saying. It is a bit slow, but I actually found that a good thing in the sense that, because I'm normally somebody who is very much a proponent of making films shorter. I'm like, oh, is it 80 minutes? I'll watch that. Whereas this is like, I can't remember if it's 2.5 hours or closer to 3, but it doesn't feel like it at all, because what it does is the bits where it lingers are bits where it needs to linger. So it does a lot of like, you feel very much like this is a real world and that it's got a rich history. There's a lot of like world building, but not just standing there and like expositing. You know, it's not just like people standing there and telling you like, here's the history of this. And it's just beautiful. Good God, there's been so few films that have wowed me in that manner, in the sense of like just looking not only stunning but also really real. Because like, this is another thing with sci-fi, is that you often find yourself thinking, well, you know, that doesn't look like it's really there, or they're clearly not looking at this alien because it's not a real person, like it's a, you know, blah blah blah. Whereas this, it's like, it's seamless. Like, you would, if you you would think you could step onto that set and there would be like a fucking floaty spaceship of awesomeness just hanging over this beautiful ocean, and you'd be like, yeah, that makes sense, perfect sense. Like, it's just so immersive and like totally stunning. And within about 2 seconds I was like, this soundtrack's got to be by Hans Zimmer, and it's amazing. Like, because the score is just like so perfect to go with the visuals and stuff. And like, yeah, I'm so sold. And I was very happy when they announced, like, it was only like 2 days after the film actually came out, they were like, yeah, you'll get part 2, don't you worry about it. Because there was like a whole brouhaha beforehand, wasn't there, about how like, oh, nobody's actually said that it's happening yet. But I was like, there's no way you're going to pump this much money, because it looks like a film that is like dripping in money.
I suppose though, if it had been a complete flop, then, you know, there's always that possibility they wouldn't have done another one.
I suppose, but I don't know. I just got the feeling, like the instant I saw it, that I was like, there's no way they're investing this much in this and not giving us the second half. Like, it feels baffling. But yeah, absolutely hats off to Denis Villeneuve, because it's just a gorgeous movie, and I'm very excited about watching it again, which is another rare thing for me. Like, I'm not somebody who's like, I'd put that on again like for at least like a year. But like, I could watch this again now, and I only saw this like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good.
I do plan to. I do plan to watch it. As I said, I've not read the book. I think nowadays when I do hear, like, you know, the comments of something's unfilmable or unadaptable or whatever, I always think of Lord of the Rings, and they said exactly the same thing about Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I said the same thing about Lord of the Rings. And then went to see Fellowship of the Ring, and I was like, okay.
Let's pour some salt on those words and have them as a nice little snack.
Yeah, enjoy. So I'm always willing. Nowadays I'm more like to give things benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of looking forward to sort of checking it out. And yeah, and I think with the knowledge that they're gonna sort of finish it is good.
Yeah.
But to be honest, even if they didn't, it probably wouldn't have bothered me, because it's not like I don't know how it finished. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, there is that, because I don't know how it finished, but I do have a copy of Dune that I could just read.
Yeah.
Like, because that's the one thing I can't speak to, like how good of an adaptation it is, because I haven't got a fucking clue. But as a film in its own right, it is great. Because another thing a lot of people were saying, which was sort of putting me off it, was that like, oh, there's so much to it, it's so confusing. And I thought, I'm an easily confused lass. Like, this is going to be a film where like 10 minutes in, I'm going to be like, I don't get it. But I didn't have a hard time following it at all. Like, it all was very clear, like sort of well laid out for me, without being like, let me spoon feed you this story. Anyway, I'll shut up about it now, because we're several minutes in and only one segment deep. Let's do some trumpets. Musical music. What's your choice this week, B?
I'm going old school.
Okay.
I don't actually think I've picked this before. So as I aforementioned, I'm about to bring out a new book. Now, the book is set in the 80s. I've got a special playlist for it, which is all 80s music and some
Nice.
soundtracks as well and stuff like that. And one of the soundtracks I've got in there is from Back to the Future.
Yes.
Now, the piece of music I've actually picked is, so there's a track which is called Clock Tower, which is obviously from the climactic scene at the end of the first film where Marty's trying to get back to the future. But it's such a I don't think I've really seen this before. No, I have actually. There's 2 tracks that cover that scene. There's actually Clock Tower Part 1 and Clock Tower Part 2. And I want to pick Clock Tower Part 2.
Okay.
Because, it's just I mean, both tracks are phenomenal anyway. I'm going to pick them both, because really you can listen to them both. So it'll be 10 minutes in total. But yeah, it's a fantastic piece of music. And it's just one of those pieces of music where once you've seen the film, probably just the once is all you need. And then you listen, it's the mark of a great soundtrack, that you can listen to that music and you know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, and it's Alan Silvestri. Just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, he's a good egg, our Alan Silvestri, isn't he?
Yeah.
Bless him. I'll have to have a listen to that, because I've got a little sort of playlist of like all my favourite sort of score songs, and the sort of main theme to Back to the Future is in there, but it's been a while since I've actually like listened to the soundtrack itself, so I'll have to go and have a listen to that, because I'm sure it's amazing.
It ages up well.
Nice. Well, I picked a song that is an instrumental, but it's not off of a score. So John Carpenter released his 3rd solo album of electronic chons this month. So I picked a song called Weeping Ghost.
Okay.
Now, you may have gathered from the fact that it's John Carpenter that most of the songs are fairly spooky.
Yeah.
So basically he decided that because he makes a lot of music for his own films, and he's done some for a few other films as well, but he decided that he wanted to do something where basically his thought was like, I didn't want to have to stick to like an image on the screen and like compose for that. I wanted to make music that's just fun for me to make without any expectations from, you know, either other directors or like actors or how the scene is going and how long a piece needs to be. So this is just him just like having fun at a piano and a bunch of synthesizers, and it's very obvious from the tracks that he is having a great deal of fun, because it's like, if you imagine like the soundtracks that you know John Carpenter from, so things like Halloween and stuff, it's like that, but like with a tint of like, I almost want to say like goofiness. Like there's just like a little bit of like sort of knowing winks in there. So it's still got that sort of like spooky kind of haunting type atmosphere the whole album has. But there's also like a definite hint of like fun in there, rather than like, oh, there's a nightmare man with a knife like following you down the road. I would wholeheartedly recommend you check out the whole album. It's called Lost Themes 3: Alive After Death. But the song I chose is Weeping Ghost.
Nice.
Nice. Do we have time for a little quick Stacey's Book Corner? 2 seconds. Very quick trumpet to say that I read The Shining. I read The Shining by Stephen King because I am on the pulse of modern literature. And I just wanted to say that I think it might be my new favourite book. Wow. So the film has always been one of my favourite horror films, and I know a lot of people have said like, oh, it's so different to the book, and it is. Like, it's a bad adaptation of the book, but still a very good film.
Right.
But now that I've read the book, I feel like I've got like a new appreciation for the film as well. But the book delves a lot more into sort of like Jack's past and Danny's past, and it actually makes Jack a lot more of a sympathetic character, because his sort of turn from, you know, being a sort of slightly grumpy dad who's struggling with alcohol into being like a full-blown psychopath is much more subtle in the book, and there's a lot more like you'd see a lot more things from his side, like his point of view, where he like he's regretting things that he's done whilst drunk and all that sort of stuff. So it's actually much more like tragic, his sort of descent into, you know, mallet wielding madness. But it was such a cracking read, and I finished it on Halloween, which was like perfect timing, I think.
Nice.
So yeah, two thumbs up from me for a book from 1977.
Hey, if it helps, I've never seen The Shining and I've never read the book.
I would wholeheartedly recommend both to you, Barry. But I do think you have to remember that Stephen King wrote a lot of stuff way back when certain words were more commonly used, and also his books are often filled with arsehole characters who say awful stuff. Because, like, I've got to say, I've recently read It as well, and I was really taken aback by how many times the N-bomb is dropped in that book.
Right.
But it's contextualised in the sense that, like, the people that are saying it are racist arseholes.
Yeah,
So
well, yeah. What you
from, like, the 60s or whatever. So it makes sense, but it was, like, really jarring to me as, like, a modern reader to be like, ugh. Like, I don't think I've ever seen that word written down in a book that I've read. So there's, like, a bit of that in The Shining as well. But if you sort of try and take your brain back to the sort of 60s and 70s when these books were written, it's hard to do. But I really like Stephen King's writing style because it's not particularly linear, and it is very sort of descriptive of like feelings and thoughts and stuff. Like, he puts a lot into his books, which I know a lot of people don't like. They think he's waffling, but I am a waffler myself, as you can see. So I enjoy waffling. Shall I shut up and we can go?
One day I might. But to be fair, I remember seeing I think it was a trailer or an advert on TV for The Shining when I was a kid, and it absolutely terrified me.
Oh yeah, it's a spooky movie.
Yeah.
My first experience of The Shining was actually at a Halloween club night in Birmingham somewhere. I want to say it might have been Subculture. So I couldn't actually hear the movie, and there was like dance music playing, and then every now and then I'd look up and there'd be like a corpse climbing out of the bath, and I'm like, ah!
Yeah.
It wasn't fun, I got to say.
No, I'll take your word for it that the book and film were great, and we'll leave it there.
Yeah, let's leave it there. Well, on that note, lads and lasses, and everybody else in between, have a lovely, whatever day it is that you are listening to, Stace and Barry in the morning. If you want to get in touch with us, you can send us an email to staceandbarry@gmail.com, or you can do a tweet to Stacey's Parlour and at Geek Syndicate. Otherwise, have a lovely autumn. It's good, innit? Go and buy a gingerbread latte. They've come out in the shops now. I'll have a gingerbread latte. Have one of them, put a roll neck on. Have a good time.
That's what I'll be doing.
Yeah. Excellent. Bye, everyone. We love you.
Bye, all.
I say we love you as though I'm speaking for Barry. He might think you're all shit.
I do.
Yeah, see. Oh, well.
Hey, what you gonna do?
What are you going to do about it? Nothing.